I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co, and today I'm reviewing the Mind Soulmates from Pandasaurus. The Mind Soulmates is an offshoot of The Mind, a very popular game from Pandasaurus. This box, by the way, won't stand. Let me see if it... Perfect, got it. A very popular game from Pandasaurus that I happen to really appreciate, and this is The Mind Soulmates, a twist on that version. The basic idea is you're going to be playing a game which your goal is to order the cards, but you're doing so with less information than you might like. The way it works is you're going to start by revealing a level, and I should say I'm just going to fully teach you how to play the game. If you know how to play The Mind, this is going to be mostly the same, but also very importantly different. And if you don't know how to play The Mind, well, it takes 2 seconds to learn. So, we're going to flip over this level card because we're playing level 1 over here. Level 1 means you reveal 4 cards. So we're going to take 4 cards, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to take those cards. I said reveal, that was a lie. I just mean draw 4 cards. Then the seer, the player who's appointed to be the seer, is going to look at 3 of those cards. So I'm going to take these cards, I'm going to look at them, and I see we have 43, 45, and 33. So I'm going to choose to write down, because this says how many cards can you tell the group about, and I'm going to tell the group that we have a 43 in play. That's going to be my piece of important information. It's important to note, by the way, these cards go from 1 to 50, which if you played The Mind, they go from 1 to 100. That's something you have to get used to as you play. We take this card that I haven't seen and we shuffle it up, and then we divvy the cards to the players. So let's say we're playing a 3-player game. We're just going to go ahead and divvy 1, 2, 3, and 4. Players get to look at their hands, and they have to start making choices. Now, I'm going to show you all their hands, just so you can get a sense of what a 3-player game would play out, but, and obviously I'm able to talk through this with perfect information because I see all of this, but this is the general idea because players do not have perfect information. The information the players have is what's in their hand, and this singular card that I told them exists. So, right about now, we look at our hands over here, and remember the numbers are 1 to 50. So I, the player with the 5 over here, I know that all the cards, because again, remember, I'm doing this myself over here, I've seen the other cards, I know this is the lowest card with no hesitancy, so I'm going to take this and confidently put it face down into a pile. That's going to be a key difference between this and The Mind. The cards you play are going face down, no one can see what you actually played, but your goal is to play them in ascending order, without knowing what other players have played. But I played the 5, I'm the seer. I have perfect information. I saw the other 3 cards, so I know exactly where this goes. At this point, the players looking at this over here, they know that a 43 is in play. So this player over here looking at their hand, they know they can't play the 45. They could play the 33. This player has a 43. They don't know what I chose to tell them. That's the tricky part over here. This player might be able to infer what I told them, though, because if they see the 45 and they see that they have the 33, well, they know the player has a 43, so they can confidently play this 33. That's the only confident thing they can do right now. This player now has a choice. They could play that 43 or wait till somebody else to see what goes on, because 43 is pretty high in the scale of 50. There's only 4 cards. There's a decent chance that there's something else in play. But also, it doesn't make sense that I would tell them the last card. The last card is usually one of the worst cards to tell people because you can just wait it out. If it's the last card, just wait it out. So to a certain extent, they do have the, not knowledge, but the assumption that their card is not the highest card. So after an appropriate amount of waiting, they'll go ahead and play this on the pile, they'll play this on the pile because that's the last card, and then I, the seer, and only I, will look at these cards, and I'll take a look, and I'll be like, okay, well, we have a 5, we have 33, we have 43, and we have 45, and I splay it to the table and say, we did it. If we did it. If we didn't do it, then what we get to do, and this is less helpful at earlier levels because at this point you probably know what to do, but at later levels it's very, very helpful. At this point what I would do is I would take these cards and I would have the choice of giving them one other piece of information. So I'm going to give them 33. We will lose a life, unfortunately. You have 4 lives except in a 2-player game, so you have 4 lives over there. So I'll lose a life, but I will take the exact same cards with one more piece of information, divvy them up again. Players do know what's in their hand, what was in their hand, so there's more information all around, and we can attempt the level again. So diving into a level for the second time is usually primed for success. Not guaranteed for success, but primed for success because you have both that extra card that you're going to be knowing about, but also the knowledge of the cards you had before and the cards you have now. Usually that's a lot of extra information if you can remember what you had, which is an important part of the game. That's how you play a level. And then you have to go through 12 of these. The levels are going to get increasingly harder because we're going to have level 2. We have 5 cards, you can see 3. Let's go ahead and jump to level 8 over here. Level 8, there's 9 cards in play, you can see 5 of them, and you can tell the group about 2 of them. All the way up to level 12, where there are 12 cards in play, the seer only sees 4 and tells you 2. That's 8 cards that you didn't know existed, and you have to play them in ascending order without even seeing them as they get played, which is a key thing in the Mind. If you play the regular Mind, you see the cards as they get played, so yes, there's still a degree of trying to feel out the pacing, but because you know the cards as they get played, you can kind of accelerate and determine based on the gap. In this case, when a card gets played face down, you don't know what the gap is, you're guessing what the gap is, and so you're operating on that hidden information that the seer has given you in order to better understand where your card possibly should go. That is how you play the Mind Soulmates. It's basically harder than the Mind because you have to play your cards without seeing them, but it's also easier than the Mind because the numbers only go to 50, which is a lower ratio, lower gaps, and then also you have that hidden information. So in other words, it's a nice twist on the Mind, something different, harder and yet easier and different all at the same time. Which brings me to our review. I love the Mind. I think the Mind is... One thing I do say about the Mind is I think it's almost more of an experience than a game. It's for sure a game, but it's not a game in a typical sense, and one of the ways I classify that is, for me, whenever I play the Mind, I play it until I eventually win. Not like necessarily all at once, but I'll play it, and then like I'll play it a week later, I'll play it a week later, and at some point I win. And then when I win, winning means to go through all the levels that you have, which in the regular Mind, it's not always 12, it depends on the player count, it's either 8, 10, or 12, but whatever it is, you do the thing, you win the game, and then it goes back on my shelf for like 6 months to a year before I pull it off again, because the challenge of the Mind isn't that feeling of accomplishment when you win the game. Once you've actually won it, diving back into it feels a little bit deflationary, unless you've had a nice gap in time, where you're incentivized to pull it out and play it again, which is, again, different than a regular game for me. It is an experience, a bonding between the players as you attempt to mind meld to whatever capacity you can, and you often are able to do so in a very rewarding manner. And so for me, I think the Mind is an excellent game, and I think the Mind Soulmates, for context, when I first heard about this game, I was both very excited about it, because I like the Mind, and also very... sure might be the wrong word, but I was skeptical it would be a game that I would enjoy. Because to me, I knew that there was extra information being conveyed by the seer. That's what I knew about this. And I was like, the Mind with clues isn't the Mind. The Mind operates so well because of the streamlinedness of how it works, because of the complete cleanliness of the system is why it's so fun. And so the idea of giving out clues to the players, like that doesn't seem as cool as what the Mind is. But then the fact that you have to play the cards face down changes everything. That adds a whole new level of complexity and a whole new level of accomplishment around that mind meld. Because this game is incredibly fun. When you go through that system and when you play 8 cards in a row, all face down, and the seer looks them over, goes through them one at a time and says, "We won," and then just plays the cards down on the table, there is something so fun about that moment, that mind meld moment, that same mind meld moment that you have when you play in the Mind, when somebody's rapidly placing a 17 followed by an 18 then a 19 right after each other as you're trying to pace each other in the Mind, as 2 players rapidly drop down to 76 and 77 right back to back. The Mind has those moments, and the Mind Soulmates has it as well. The structure is different, because again, you don't have them as you play. You have the uncertainty and the nervousness as you play things, and you think to yourself, there's no way we just won that round. The pacing was off, something's wrong, we for sure lost, and then the seer reveals the cards, and you got it. Every single time that happens, well, not every time, sometimes it seems more obvious than others, but the times where it doesn't, the times where you really feel like you got into that rhythm, that mojo, that vibe with the other players, it is an incredibly satisfying experience. If you like the Mind, I think the Mind Soulmates delivers on that same experience in a different way, familiar and yet different, more challenging and easier all at the same time. Do you need the Mind do you need the Mind Soulmates if you have the Mind? I don't know if you do. They kind of play into that same kind of feeling, just doing so differently. This is like having Ticket to Ride and Ticket to Ride Europe. If you really like Ticket to Ride and you want a variation of it, get Ticket to Ride Europe. I will say, if you are someone who hasn't played the Mind, I do think the Mind might be a I think the Mind might be the definitive experience that I would recommend more so. But I think the Mind Soulmates is fun. It's a good offshoot for those who enjoy the Mind. And if you don't enjoy the Mind, I would assume you wouldn't enjoy this too. That's an assumption, it's not a fact. You may well have an opportunity to try this and be like, this is everything, this is so different, I love what this does. Everyone's brain gets tickled in a different way, and so this might work for you when the Mind didn't, but I certainly wouldn't recommend it for you if you didn't like the Mind, because to me, it's tickling my brain in the exact same way. So overall, I like this. I will say I'm going to complain about the fact that this marker that they give you doesn't have a felt side, so you're just wiping off with your finger, which feels like one of those things like, granted, the felt sides are not great, but at least it pretends that there's something that you have. So I was a little annoyed that this marker doesn't give you the felt thing, because that just feels like a weird choice over there. Outside of that, this game is good at what it's trying to do. I don't think it's anything amazing, incredible, or whatever. I think it's the variation of the Mind. I think that's what it set out to do, and that's what it did well. Final thoughts-wise, I'm going to rate this one a 4 out of 5. The Mind is a little higher for me. The cleanliness of the system, the purity of it, the sequential numbering you have, I still think that tickles me a drop better. But I will say the Mind Soulmates I was excited for, expecting not to like it while being excited, and the end result is that I am still excited for it. A 4 out of 5. If you're looking for other game recommendations, definitely check out The Mind. Again, I think it's a better version of this game, but this game is good at what it's trying to do. And then similarly, check out Time to Panic. If you're looking for a different game about sequencing in a cooperative fashion, that is a whole different mind meld, but still one in which you have to puzzle out how to get your cards in order before the world's clock runs out, and it is indeed time to panic. In any case, and until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you found this review helpful, and as always, I hope you have a good one.